So in a recent video, I showed you a homemade oven that I made from 2 dog bowls. It was a small, lightweight object that I could carry backpacking, use over the coals of a fire, use over an alcohol or a gas stove, or use over one of my small wood stoves. Introducing that video, I showed you what I considered the very best means of baking anything in the woods, and that was my reflector oven. If you'd like to learn more about my reflector oven, stay tuned. Okay, so I had wanted a reflector oven for some time, and I had looked at the ones online, and I found all kinds of designs for homemade or DIY reflector ovens. And one of the sites I found actually gave the descriptions on how to make a reflector oven, but at the same time, they actually sold the one that they gave away the designs for. So I thought that'd be cool. I did take the file, and I thought for a while that I would try and make that, but the more I looked at it, the more complicated it got. It seemed to be simply the best design I had seen anywhere. Well, I was very pleased when I found that this was for sale in Canada on the Outdoor Equipment Canadian Outdoor Equipment website, and I will give you a link below. And what it is a small, well, relatively small, give the dimensions in the video as well, but it's made in Sweden, and it's made from aluminum. And you can see when it is not in use, it packs down very small and very flat. Now, when it would arrive, it did have a strap, or it does have a strap. I have the strap set aside right now, just a nice strap that threads around the whole thing to keep it together. So in order to assemble the reflector oven, it literally unfolds itself, and inside you'll find 2 wire items, which I'll explain in a second, and a small door at the back, which you flip up and has a little tab that turns to lock it into place. And the reflector oven is essentially ready to go, but you do want to add a few things. So they give you a wire that will thread from the side. Give me a second while I do this. And this is your shelf for baking. A little bit of coordination required. There are 2 heights for this, but we found we've only ever needed to use it at the higher of the 2 heights. And also given is a foot or a wire that will go on the back of the oven. And that's a leveling, so that when you set it up, it's sitting level, and the tray is sitting right towards you. So that's it. That's basically the whole oven. Now, you do need something to cook in with this oven. So in addition to this oven, I found a few items at my local Value Village that we've added to the system very inexpensively. A small 4-pan or 4 muffin tin will fit in there. Now, it's not in exactly the sweet spot, but it doesn't take much to turn it around if I need to make sure the muffins are getting the same amount of heat on all sides. That's one thing I found. Small bread pan as well, aluminum bread pan that we can put in that direction. We can put it in the other direction as well, but we find that it's not necessary. It'll work just fine in that direction. Halfway through the cooking, if necessary, we can turn it around. Stay level here on the picnic table. And put it in that direction as well. So that's another item. A small, low 8-inch pan. It is Teflon coated or some type of a non-stick coating in the inside. This is the one we use most often because it'll fit in just nicely, and it works for most of the things that we cook with this. I made a cookie sheet out of flashing. So this is just a piece of aluminum flashing that I cut to size, and we can use that for a cookie sheet. And finally, you may recognize this, you may not. This is from a springform pan, a 9-inch springform cake pan, and the rest of it had been pretty much useless, so I kept the bottom plate of it. And this is for pizza, and it works just perfectly for pizza. And of course, we will once in a while have to turn it around while it's facing the fire. All right, so this is the oven. Those are some of the items that go with it. Now, of coincidence, just before we came camping this year, we found in one of our local bookstores from the company's coming series of books, it's Camping Cooking, and lo and behold, within the book were a number of recipes on how to use using a reflector oven. And, in fact, there is a DIY reflector oven using a metal bread box and how to use that. So that was a kind of a nice coincidence, just a little added bonus. All right, instead of talking about using this reflector oven, why don't we actually do that? So tonight we're going to prepare a roast, a pork roast, and a dessert with a fire here at the campsite, and I'll show doing both. Stay tuned. All right, we've got a roaring fire going, as you can see. Let's get this thing in the oven. So what I have is another small pan. It didn't make it into the first video because I needed something larger. And this is a 1 pound pork roast that we've spiced up with some number of different spices, salt and pepper and all-bay seasoning and a little bit of cayenne, a few other things on top of it. And so being a 1 pound roast, we're estimating, if we do this right, that it will take approximately 30 minutes. Now, there are no absolutes when it comes to cooking with a reflector oven or any matter when you're using a fire. There's too many variables involved. But some of my experience, what I'm seeing is right here on the ground, I have 2 pieces of wood, and they're intended to elevate the oven up just a tiny bit. So let me place the oven in place. All right, right away I noticed one of my supports is not, there we go, that's better. All right. And the reason I have the oven raised up just a little bit is because just the physics of the fire, the majority of the heat doesn't happen right at the bottom, it happens just up off of the bottom. And what I've found is that there's much more heat generated, and the infrared heat is greater just off of the base of the fire. So if I lift the oven up just a little bit, then I'll have more heat. So the concept of the reflector oven is simply, it's just that, a reflector. The design has multiple angles which will catch the heat as it comes out of the fire and reflect it down towards the center. And it does so very effectively. Now, interestingly enough, I'm not feeling any heat at all on the side of this. And this small handle on top never gets hot. It doesn't matter how hot this gets. How close do you get it to the fire? That's what's hard to judge. This time we're going to keep it back just a little bit. We don't want the roast to burn. We don't want it to cook too quickly. So I've got it back from the fire just slightly. When I go to cook our dessert, which you'll see, I'll build the fire slightly different. Right now it's down a little bit lower. But when I go to cook the dessert, because it cooks so quickly at a higher temperature, I'll build more of a teepee fire and I'll generate a lot of heat. But you can probably see the design of that fire pit right now is just really almost like a fire tornado inside of it. And I can feel back here, there's a tremendous amount of heat, and I'm 2-3 feet back from the fire right now. So we'll just keep an eye on it, and I'll bring it back during the next 30 minutes a few times to see how this is doing inside, and I'll be able to show you right inside the oven from the other side as the roast starts to cook. And hopefully within 30 minutes our roast will be done, and then will be time to put our dessert on. All right, I think I'll just put it a tiny bit closer. There we go. Okay, bring it back. All right, folks, look at that. Trying to get a shot of the roast from behind the fireplace. Let's see if I can get in a little bit closer there. Yeah, doesn't that look good? A little closer yet? All right, you can almost smell it, can't you? So this should have taken half hour. It would have at home in an oven. But we just tested it after 15 minutes and it's almost done. So another 5 minutes, 20 minutes, and our roast will be done. So we'll bring it back when it's time to eat. All right, let's take this thing off the oven. Can you see how it is so cold? It's still cold to the touch. That's one of the nice things about this little oven. All right, so here we are. Roast is in. I do need an UGG glove or something to take the pan out. Set the oven aside. All right, I'll put it on the other hand using the Randall Graham camp knife. Let's transfer it over. Oh man, is this ever tender. I don't think I need the glove on for this job. Let's have a look at this. Holy smokes. I'll bring you up a close-up in a second, folks, but let me just slice this. Yeah. I was a little worried it was going to be pink in the center, but it's not. That is so tender. That should be enough to make a meal out of. One more slice. How does that look? I know pork roast isn't for everybody, but boy, that came out perfectly. All right, we're going to set up and have supper, and we'll bring you back just as we go to have a taste test. All right. Okay, this looks amazing. Oh, let's enjoy.
We offer our thanks, our gratitude for this beautiful day, and the chance to be in this beautiful park, and the chance to share this food together. In Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Okay, folks, I won't keep this going very long. We just want to be able to eat our supper, but I think it's only fair that I at least show you what we've done. Gina has prepared some nice spring vegetables, so we've got some nice small potatoes and some peas and some carrots all cut up here. And she put together a nice mushroom gravy as well. So we're just, can I give you a piece? Or two? Two piece? Two piece, great.
Thank you.
All right. I'll put a couple pieces on my plate. Start. All right, I'm not going to make you guys watch this. We'll bring it back when it's time to put our dessert together. All right, so the main course is done. Boy, did we ever enjoy that pork roast. Let me tell you, that was just amazing. Now I have to rebuild the fire up. As you can see, it's just gone to coals so that we can do our dessert. So Gina is just putting the cinnamon rolls. Now they're Pillsbury cinnamon rolls. They're, we bought them at the grocery store the other day. And so it's not from a scratch recipe, but you know what, we don't have to go through all that effort all the time, do we? So, just a few more splits to get the fire reignited. I don't even need that. And ideally, if I can do this, we're going to build this in somewhat of a teepee fashion. But the way this fire pit is, it's going to be more of a leaning fashion. And I'll knock it down in a minute if I have to. But that is probably more than enough wood to do our cinnamon rolls. All right, so the cinnamon rolls. Oh, we start these off covered, do we?
Yep.
Okay, are we ready? My fire is looking pretty good there. Okay. So here's the oven. Put the cinnamon rolls in. And you won't believe how fast this goes. Now for this, you want a hot, high fire because you're looking to cook these very fast. So I'm going to place that in very close. And the height of the sticks and the way the fire is going to raise up will cook these incredibly fast. I'll move this around to the other side so you can see them cooking as well. So stand by. So it only takes a few minutes to get these cinnamon rolls ready. They're puffing right up. In fact, they're browning. I think it's time I better take them off. I'll transfer them over to the table and show you what they look like when we get them on the table. Okay, we've taken them from the oven to the picnic table. Gina's transferring them over to the plate, and we have some icing that we can put on top of it. It does come with these. Oh man, those look good. Look at them all. They all rose nicely. Brown nicely on top. Brown just nicely on the bottom, not burnt. This is guesswork, really. Timing is a matter of these are done when they're done. So you do have to, watch them constantly, especially with things like this, because they do cook very quickly. All right, we're putting the icing on the cinnamon rolls, and we'll give you the taste test and let you know what we think. All right, what do you think? They look pretty good?
They look yummy.
Let's have a look. Ooh, I feel like Mike Barton. Wish there was smell-o-vision. What do you think? Warm. Oh yeah, look at that. I'd call that a success. Yeah, good.
Delicious.
Won't make you watch us eat. All right, my reflector oven. I think it works pretty good. You know, really, you're only limited by your imagination. The different things that we've cooked in this, what we did is we just said, what would we cook at home in the oven? Why can't we try it within the Reflector oven? Who would have thought of cooking a roast out in the campground? Or baking cinnamon rolls? Worked pretty good. Those are just two examples of things that you can do with a reflector oven like this. I'd be interested in knowing what your experience with reflector ovens are. Maybe you've got a homemade one you'd like to share some details on. Maybe you have some recipes. Maybe you have one like mine that you've used and you want to share your experiences on it. I'd be interested in knowing. I will provide the links where this can be purchased from, as well as the links to where the plans can be gained if you want to try and make one of your own. Okay, until next time. Maybe you'll consider subscribing to my channel for more videos like this and a lot of other videos that I have in mind. But until next time, get out and explore. Take the path less traveled. It will make all the difference. Bye for now.